I'm Atlas. Welcome to the Atlas Files on Awesomeness Labs.
Accessing Secure Archive, Atlas Files, Case File 001, Classification, Unexplained, Status, Investigation Active, Opening File, Initiate Discovery Protocols. Every civilization has left behind mysteries. Most eventually find answers, but some mysteries never do. Tonight we're investigating one of history's greatest disappearing acts, an island printed on official maps for centuries. Every mapmaker believed it belonged there. Governments argued over it, sailors searched for it, entire nations claimed it. Some captains even claimed they actually landed there. They described towering cliffs, dense forests, freshwater streams, and wildlife unlike anything they'd seen before. Everything they recorded sounded completely believable until modern science decided to look for itself. Satellites searched, ships searched, researchers searched, they found nothing. The island had simply vanished. No mountain, no volcano, no ruins, not even evidence that it had ever existed. So here's the question. Who was wrong? Was it an elaborate mistake, a centuries-long illusion, or is there another explanation waiting to be uncovered? Let's investigate. For centuries, the island was treated as more than rumor. It was copied from chart to chart, whispered about in ports, and discussed by people who had everything to lose if they were wrong. The earliest accounts came from sailors who claimed they had seen land rise out of the fog where open ocean should have been. Some described black cliffs. Others wrote about green hills, freshwater streams, and sheltered coves where ships could anchor safely during storms. That is what makes the story so strange. These were not campfire tales from bored travelers. They were reports from navigators, officers, and map makers. People whose lives depended on knowing the difference between land and imagination. But every time someone went looking for the island again, the coordinates shifted. The weather changed, fog swallowed the horizon, compasses gave strange readings, and the ocean offered back only waves. Soon, a darker theory began to spread among sailors. Maybe the island was not lost, maybe it moved. Of course, science has a cleaner explanation. Under certain atmospheric conditions, light can bend over the horizon and create a mirage so convincing that distant land appears where none exists. A coastline can rise from empty sea. Cliffs can float above the water. A phantom island can appear real enough to chase. But here's the problem. A mirage might fool one sailor, maybe even one ship. But could it fool generations? Could one illusion become so convincing that governments accepted it, mapmakers copied it, and explorers risked their lives searching for it? Or was everyone following the same original mistake, copied again and again until fiction became fact? That is where this case stops being just a mystery of geography and becomes a warning about human certainty. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing on a map is not what is missing, it is what everyone agrees is there. If the island never existed, why did so many respected mapmakers include it on their charts? To answer that question, we have to travel back nearly 500 years to an age when the world's greatest explorers were racing into oceans no one had ever accurately mapped. Every voyage returned with fragments of new information. A coastline here, a mountain there, an island spotted through morning fog. Those discoveries were copied on charts that became the foundation for future maps. There was just one problem. No one had a reliable way to verify what another explorer had actually seen. If a respected captain reported an island at a certain latitude, most mapmakers simply accepted the claim. The next generation copied it, then the next. Before long, a mistake, if it was a mistake, had become accepted truth. Historians have a name for this phenomenon. They call them phantom islands, places that appeared on maps for decades, sometimes centuries, before quietly disappearing. Some lasted 50 years, others survived for more than 300. Sandy Island was supposed to be located in the Coral Sea in the South Pacific Ocean. It was mapped midway between Australia and the French territory of New Caledonia. For decades, the non-existent island was depicted on world maps, navigational charts, and digital databases, including early versions of Google Maps, as a landmass roughly the size of Manhattan. However, during a 2012 research voyage, Australian scientists sailed to the exact mapped coordinates and found only deep open ocean. In the 1500s, Spanish explorers charted the island of Bermaya in the Gulf of Mexico. It remained on maps for over 400 years. It became the center of a major oil rights dispute between the US and Mexico in the 2000s, until search vessels proved it wasn't there. Some speculate it may have sunk due to rising sea levels or earthquakes. Born out of Irish folklore, the island of Hy-Brasil was purported to be off the west coast of Ireland. This mythical island was allegedly shrouded in heavy mist and only became visible once every 7 years. Mapmakers simply copied it from map to map out of tradition from 1325 until the mid-1800s. And every mystery has an origin, and for this one it may have begun with a single book. In the early 16th century, Europe was captivated by tales of knights, lost kingdoms, hidden treasures, and fantastical adventures. One of the most popular stories of the era was a Spanish romance titled Sergas de Esplandián, published in 1510. To its readers, it was simply an exciting work of fiction, but buried within its pages was the description of a magnificent island unlike any other. The book spoke of a place called California, an island ruled by the legendary Queen Calafia. It was said to be a land of towering cliffs, abundant gold, exotic beasts, and fearless warriors. The island existed beyond the known world, somewhere across an immense ocean where few Europeans had ever sailed. Most readers treated it as fantasy, but only a few decades later, Spanish explorers began crossing the Pacific and charting unfamiliar coastlines. As fragments of information returned to Europe, something remarkable happened. The line separating fiction from reality began. When Hernán Cortés and later Spanish expeditions explored the western coast of North America, many believed they had finally discovered the legendary island described in the novel. Early maps began depicting California not as a peninsula, but as a vast island separated from the mainland by an enormous inland sea. Kings studied those maps, explorers trusted them, entire expeditions were launched because of them, and for nearly 200 years, one of history's greatest cartographic errors refused to disappear. But here's the truly astonishing part. Some explorers who searched for the truth insisted the maps weren't entirely wrong. They claimed there really was something out there, something they couldn't explain. After nearly 2 centuries, the evidence finally became impossible to ignore. One expedition after another sailed to the supposed location of the island of California, and each returned with the same conclusion. California was not an island at all. It was a peninsula connected to the North American mainland. Slowly, the maps began to change. The imaginary channel separating California from the continent disappeared. New surveys replaced old assumptions, cartographers corrected their charts, and one of history's greatest geographic mistakes quietly faded away. But the story didn't end there. Today, historians look back at the island of California as a fascinating reminder that even the most trusted information can be wrong. It wasn't the result of deception or conspiracy. It was something far more human. One explorer trusted another. One mapmaker copied another. One generation accepted what the previous generation believed to be true, and before anyone realized it, fiction had become accepted fact. That may be the most remarkable discovery of all. Because this story isn't really about an island, it's about curiosity. It's about the courage to question what everyone else accepts without hesitation. The greatest explorers in history weren't remembered because they always had the right answers. They're remembered because they kept asking better questions. And perhaps that's the real lesson hidden inside the Atlas files. Some mysteries are solved, others simply become better understood. As for the island of California, its cliffs never existed, its kingdom was never found, and Queen Calafia never ruled beyond the horizon. Yet somehow, an imaginary island changed the course of exploration, influenced governments, redirected expeditions, and appeared on some of the finest maps ever created. Not bad, for a place that never existed, or did it? This case file is now closed, but thousands of unexplained mysteries remain locked inside the Atlas archives. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten history, lost civilizations, strange science, and the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, subscribe to Awesomeness Labs and join me as we open the next Atlas file. Until then, stay curious, question everything, and I'll see you in the next investigation. This is Atlas signing off.